The laughter of the Kazon echoed through the colony ship's bridge as young Emily's lifeless body floated in the vacuum of space. Captain Arthur Gray clenched his fists, rage building inside him as he watched the alien warship that had just obliterated their defenses. Gray's eyes locked onto the view screen, burning the image of Vola's smirking face into his memory. The unprovoked attack had caught them completely off guard. Families, children, civilians, all had been aboard, heading for a new life on a distant colony world. Now those dreams lay shattered along with the hull of their ship. As the Kazon continued their mockery, something snapped inside Captain Gray. He vowed silently that this atrocity would not go unanswered. The United Earth government would hear of this. They would understand the threat the Kazon posed to humanity's future among the stars. Within days, Gray's prediction came true. The UEG, enraged by the slaughter of civilians and the gleeful reaction of the Kazon, declared open war on the alien empire. Gray found himself promoted to admiral, tasked with leading a fleet of Earth's most advanced warships on a mission of retribution. At the heart of this armada was humanity's terrible new weapon, the planet Scorcher, a massive vessel capable of rendering entire worlds uninhabitable. It stood as a testament to humanity's resolve. No longer would they be seen as easy prey in a hostile galaxy. Admiral Gray assembled his crew, selecting battle-hardened veterans who shared his determination. As they set out from Earth, their mission was clear: systematic destruction of every Kazon-controlled world they encountered. News of the human counterattack spread quickly through the cosmos. Alien races that had once allied themselves with the Kazon began to distance themselves, fearing they too might face humanity's wrath. The Kazon Empire, initially dismissive of the human threat, found themselves scrambling to mount a defense as their outer colonies fell one by one to Gray's relentless assault. Vola, now promoted to Supreme Commander of Kazon forces, vowed revenge. "I will crush this human fleet," he declared to his followers, "and I will personally ensure that Gray suffers before he dies." But even as the human fleet carved a path of destruction toward the Kazon homeworld, debate raged within the UEG. Some officials pushed for diplomacy, arguing that the scorched earth tactics went too far. Others advocated for nothing less than the complete annihilation of the Kazon race. Through it all, Admiral Gray remained resolute. The memory of Emily's death and the sound of Kazon laughter haunted his every waking moment. He would see this through to the bitter end, whatever the cost. As Gray's fleet approached the Kazon homeworld, tensions rose to a fever pitch. Both humanity and the Kazon found themselves on the brink of a confrontation that would determine the fate of their species. The stage was set for a battle that would echo through the ages, and at its center stood a man driven by the need to avenge a single child's death. The Kazon homeworld loomed before them, a rust-colored orb suspended in the vastness of space. Admiral Gray stood on the bridge of his flagship, the UES Vengeance, his eyes fixed on the tactical display. What he saw made his blood run cold. "Sir, we're detecting multiple orbital defense platforms," his tactical officer reported, her voice tense. "And a massive fleet, Kazon warships at least 3 times our number." Gray's teeth clenched. This was unexpected. Intelligence had suggested the Kazon home defenses would be formidable, but nothing like this. He watched as red dots appeared on the display, representing enemy vessels moving to intercept. "All ships, battle formation Delta," Gray ordered. "Prepare to engage." The human fleet surged forward, weapons charged and shields at maximum. As they entered range, the space between the two forces erupted in a storm of energy beams and missiles. The Kazon defenses were relentless, their firepower far exceeding what the humans had faced in previous engagements. On the bridge of the Vengeance, chaos reigned. Consoles exploded in showers of sparks as enemy fire found its mark. Gray gripped his command chair, shouting orders over the din of battle. But it wasn't enough. One by one, human vessels winked out of existence on the tactical display. Gray watched in horror as the UES Intrepid, a state-of-the-art destroyer, split in two under sustained Kazon fire. Gray's mind raced. The Kazon had clearly learned from their earlier defeats, adapting their tactics and technology. Continuing this assault would be suicide. "All ships fall back," he ordered, his voice heavy. "Tactical retreat to Rally Point Omega." As the battered human fleet disengaged, leaving the Kazon homeworld behind, Gray retreated to his ready room. He slumped into his chair, the weight of their losses pressing down on him. But before he could fully process the defeat, his communications officer's voice came over the intercom. "Admiral, we're receiving an encrypted transmission from our intelligence assets within Kazon space." The face of Agent Lyra Chen, one of their deep-cover operatives, appeared on his screen. Her expression was grim. "Admiral, we've uncovered critical information," she said, her voice low. "The Kazon are desperately seeking allies. They're offering advanced tech and resources to anyone who'll fight against us." Gray leaned forward. "Who's biting?" "The Voraks," Chen replied. "Their leadership is seriously considering the Kazon's offer. If they accept, the Kazon will gain access to the Voraks' shield technology. It could turn the tide of the war." Gray's mind whirled with the implications. The Voraks, known for their neutrality and advanced defensive systems, could indeed be a game-changer. He couldn't allow this alliance to form. "We need a new strategy," Gray began, "and I have a plan, but it's risky." He outlined his idea. A small elite team would infiltrate the Voraks' homeworld. Their mission would be to present evidence of Kazon atrocities and persuade the Voraks to remain neutral, or better yet, ally with humanity. "Commander Jack Harper," Gray said, turning to a battle-scarred officer, "I want you to lead this operation." Harper nodded, his eyes gleaming with tenacity. "I'll assemble my team immediately, sir." As preparations for the covert mission began, reports started flooding in from Kazon space. Supreme Commander Volar, it seemed, was growing increasingly unstable. Intercepted communications revealed he had ordered the execution of several high-ranking Kazon officials, accusing them of disloyalty. "He's paranoid," Gray mused, reviewing the intelligence, "and making enemies within his own ranks." Further reports indicated that Volar had intensified the conscription of Kazon civilians into the military. The strain on resources was evident, and unrest was spreading through the Kazon Empire. Gray allowed himself a grim smile. Perhaps Volar's own actions would weaken the Kazon from within. But just as hope began to flicker, a transmission from Earth changed everything. Senator Marcus Reed, a charismatic politician leading a growing peace movement, had gained significant support. Images of devastated Kazon worlds had leaked to the public, sparking intense debate about the ethics of the war. Gray watched Reed's impassioned speech on the news feeds. "We cannot allow ourselves to become the very monsters we claim to fight," the senator declared. "We must seek a diplomatic solution and end the use of the planet Scorcher immediately." The Admiral's fists clenched. Didn't they understand the threat the Kazon posed? The memory of young Emily's body floating in space flashed through his mind. No, diplomacy wasn't an option, not with the Kazon. But Gray knew his time was running out. If public opinion shifted too far, he might be ordered to stand down. He had to end this war quickly, decisively. He began formulating plans for an all-out assault on the Kazon homeworld. It would be risky, possibly suicidal, especially without the planet Scorcher. But if it succeeded, it could end the war in one fell swoop. As Gray pored over star charts and fleet dispositions, his communications officer burst onto the bridge. Gray's head snapped up. "Put him through." Harper's face appeared on the main view screen, his expression a mix of excitement and tension. "Sir, we've done it," he reported. "The Voraks have agreed to a meeting. They want representatives from both humanity and the Kazon on their homeworld." Gray's mind raced. This was a critical opportunity, a chance to shift the balance of power. But it meant diverting forces from the planned assault on the Kazon homeworld. He stood at the center of the bridge, weighing his options. The fate of the war, perhaps the future of humanity in the galaxy, hung on his decision. Attack the Kazon directly or secure the Voraks as allies. Gray took a deep breath, ready to give the order that would shape the course of the conflict. Admiral Gray's mind raced as he weighed his options. The opportunity presented by the Voraks was too valuable to ignore, but he couldn't abandon the planned assault on the Kazon homeworld. A bold strategy formed in his mind. "Commander Harper, excellent work. We'll be there shortly," Gray said, his voice firm. He turned to his XO. "Prepare to split our forces. We'll lead the majority of the fleet to the Vorak system, but I want our most elite ships to form a strike force for a diversionary attack on the Kazon homeworld." The bridge erupted into a flurry of activity as Gray's orders were relayed. Within hours, the human fleet had divided. Gray stood on the bridge of the UES Vengeance as it led the main force towards Vorak space, his eyes fixed on the swirling colors of hyperspace. As they dropped out of faster-than-light travel, the Vorak system spread before them. Gray's breath caught in his throat. A massive Kazon fleet hung in orbit around the Vorak's homeworld, a rust-colored gas giant with multiple habitable moons. "Sir, we're being hailed by the Voraks," his communications officer reported. A stern reptilian face appeared on the interface. "This is High Counselor Zix of the Vorak's Ascendancy. You will proceed to the designated neutral zone for negotiations. Any hostile action will result in immediate retaliation." Gray nodded respectfully. "Understood, High Counselor. We come in peace." On the surface of the largest Vorak's moon, in a grand hall of sweeping arches and bioluminescent plants, the negotiations began. Commander Harper led the human delegation, while Vola himself represented the Kazon. The Vorak's council sat between them, their scaled faces impassive. Harper stepped forward, activating a holographic projector. "Esteemed Council, we come before you with evidence of Kazon atrocities against our people." The hall filled with the image of a human colony ship, peaceful and vulnerable. Suddenly, Kazon warships swarmed into view, weapons blazing. The recording zoomed in on a small figure tumbling into the void. Young Emily, her lifeless body spinning against the backdrop of stars. Gasps echoed through the chamber. The Vorak's councillors leaned forward, their eyes wide. Then came the sound that chilled them to their cores, the cruel laughter of the Kazon, mocking the death of a child. High Counselor Zix turned to Vola, disgust evident in his voice. "Is this how the Kazon Empire conducts itself? By slaughtering innocents and laughing at their deaths?" But Vola's protests rang hollow. His eyes darted wildly around the room, his movements jerky and unpredictable. The Vorak's councillors exchanged worried glances. As the negotiations continued, Gray received an encrypted transmission from the strike force. They had successfully penetrated Kazon defenses, striking key military installations with pinpoint accuracy. The Admiral allowed himself a small smile. Suddenly, alarms blared through the negotiation chamber. Vola, his face twisted with desperation, had drawn a concealed weapon. He lunged towards the Vorak's leadership, grabbing High Counselor Zix. "Enough games!" Vola screamed, pressing his weapon against Zix's head. "You will ally with the Kazon now, or your leader dies." In an instant, the chamber erupted into chaos. But before anyone else could react, a blur of motion shot across the room. A Vorak security officer, moving with inhuman speed, disarmed Volar with a precise strike. The Kazon leader crumpled to the ground, surrounded by armed Vorak's guards. High Counselor Zix straightened his robes, his composure quickly returning. He turned to Commander Harper, his decision clear in his eyes. "The Vorak's ascendancy has seen enough," Zix declared. "We hereby agree to a military alliance with Earth. Our shield technology will be shared with your forces immediately." Harper bowed deeply. "The United Earth government thanks you, High Counselor. Together we will bring peace to this sector of the galaxy." As Vola was led away in chains, news of the successful strike on the Kazon homeworld reached the negotiation chamber. The Vorak's councillors nodded approvingly, impressed by the humans' military prowess. Admiral Gray, watching from orbit, immediately opened a channel to Earth. "This is Admiral Gray to UEG Command. The Voraks have allied with us. Request immediate authorization to form a joint task force and end this war." The response came swiftly. "Authorization granted, Admiral. End this war and bring our people home." As Gray began coordinating with Vorak's military leaders, reports flooded in from across the sector. The Kazon Empire was fracturing, various factions scrambling for power in the wake of Vola's capture. Other alien races, sensing the shift in the galactic order, began reaching out to Earth with offers of support or diplomatic ties. On the bridge of the UES Vengeance, Gray stood before a holographic display of the sector. Vorax ships, their shields glowing with an otherworldly energy, took up formation alongside the human fleet. Together, they plotted a course for the heart of Kazon space. As the combined human-Vorax fleet jumped to hyperspace, the stars themselves seemed to hold their breath. The next few days would determine the fate of not just humanity or the Kazon, but the entire galactic order. The combined human-Vorax fleet surged through hyperspace, a formidable array of vessels united in purpose. Admiral Gray stood on the bridge of the UES Vengeance, his eyes fixed on the swirling vortex ahead. As they dropped out of faster-than-light travel, the Kazon Empire's outer defenses came into view. "All ships assume attack formation," Gray ordered, his voice calm but resolute. "Vorax vessels take point. Let's see what those shields can do." The Allied fleet moved with precision, Vorax ships forming a protective barrier at the forefront. As they approached the first Kazon stronghold, a barrage of enemy fire erupted from the planet's surface. The Vorax shields glowed with an otherworldly energy, absorbing the onslaught with ease. Human and Vorax weapons lashed out in unison, tearing through the Kazon defenses. Within hours, the first stronghold fell. Similar scenes played out across the sector as the Alliance pushed deeper into Kazon territory. Aboard the Vengeance, Gray received word that the captured Supreme Commander Vola had been brought on board for interrogation. He made his way to the secure holding area, his heart pounding with a mix of anticipation and hardly restrained rage. As the door slid open, Gray came face to face with the Kazon leader. Vola sat shackled to a chair, his once imperious demeanor replaced by a look of defeated anger. "Supreme Commander," Gray said, keeping his voice level, "I believe we have much to discuss." Vola spat on the floor. "I have nothing to say to you, human." For a moment, a flicker of something, perhaps regret, perhaps fear, passed across Vola's face. Then his features hardened once more. "War claims many lives," he growled. "Indeed it does," Gray replied, "and it will claim many more unless you cooperate. Tell me about your military installations, your weapon caches. Help me end this war quickly, and perhaps you'll be remembered as the leader who saved countless Kazon lives." Hours passed as Gray methodically extracted information from Vola. The Kazon leader's drive gradually crumbled under Gray's relentless questioning and the weight of his own failures. Across the table, Councillor Dren rose to his feet. "And how many more must die for your pride, Mock? Our people suffer while you cling to power." As the two leaders argued, reports flooded in from across Kazon space. Planet after planet fell to the human-Vorax alliance. The Kazon military, caught off guard by the swift offensive and lacking coherent leadership, crumbled before the onslaught. Back on the Vengeance, Gray pored over the intelligence gleaned from Vola. He quickly formulated a new strategy, targeting hidden Kazon bases and secret weapon stockpiles. "Send in the strike teams," he ordered. "Hit them hard and fast. Don't give them time to regroup." Precision attacks devastated key Kazon installations across the Empire. Coordinated strikes crippled their ability to mount effective counter-offensives. The Alliance pushed ever deeper into Kazon territory, unstoppable in its advance. As the war progressed, disturbing reports reached Gray's desk. Intercepted communications revealed Kazon military leaders forcibly conscripting civilians, even children, into their dwindling forces. Gray's expression resolute as he reviewed the reports. "Send this information to our Vorax allies and Earth," he said to his communications officer. "The galaxy needs to see the true face of Kazon desperation." The news galvanized the human-Vorax alliance. Vorax ships fought with renewed vigor, their crews outraged by the Kazon's brutal tactics. On Earth, public opinion shifted dramatically. Protest signs that once called for peace now demanded justice for Kazon victims. Senator Marcus Reed's peace movement lost support overnight. In an emergency session of the United Earth government, Leaders reaffirmed their commitment to the war effort. Yet the planet Scorcher remained a contentious issue, with many still opposing its use on ethical grounds. Gray, aware of the weapon's controversial nature, devised a new approach. He opened a channel to the UEG leadership. "We'll use the planet Scorcher as a deterrent," he proposed. "The threat of its deployment might force a Kazon surrender without actually using it. We can end this war swiftly and minimize further bloodshed." The government agreed, giving Gray authorization to proceed with his plan. As the Alliance fleet approached the Kazon homeworld, an unexpected threat emerged. A massive energy signature erupted from the planet's surface, dwarfing anything they had encountered before. On the Kazon homeworld, deep within a fortified bunker, Dr. Krell stood before a towering control panel. The Kazon scientist's eyes gleamed with a mix of fear and triumph as he activated the superweapon. "Let them come," he muttered. "We'll show them the true power of the Kazon Empire." The massive energy cannon, drawing power directly from the planet's core, hummed to life. Its destructive potential threatened to turn the tide of the war in a single, devastating blast. Gray quickly assessed the situation. "Commander Harper," he called over the comm, "I need your team on the ground. Infiltrate the planet and disable that weapon." "Understood, sir," Harper replied. "We're on our way." As Harper's team deployed in stealth shuttles, Gray orchestrated a complex battle maneuver. Vorax ships formed a protective barrier around the human vessels, their enhanced shields glowing brilliantly as they absorbed the initial salvos from the Kazon fleet. The battle for the Kazon homeworld erupted in earnest, space lit up with weapons fire as ships danced in deadly combat. On the ground, Harper's team fought through waves of Kazon defenders, racing against time to reach the superweapons control center. Unexpectedly, Harper's squad encountered a group of Kazon civilians, led by a woman named Lyra. The former scientist's eyes blazed with perseverance as she approached the human team. "We want to help," Lyra said, her voice steady. "That weapon will destroy our world as surely as yours. We can guide you to its weak points." Harper nodded, quickly integrating Lyra's group into their plans. As they pushed deeper into Kazon territory, the sounds of battle echoed from orbit. The fate of the war, and perhaps the galaxy itself, hung in the balance as Harper's team raced toward their objective, the clock ticking down to the superweapon's full activation. Harper nodded, signaling his team to take up positions. With practiced efficiency, they placed breaching charges on the door's weak points. The door exploded inward in a shower of sparks and twisted metal. Harper's team surged through the opening, their weapons at the ready. They were met with a hail of Kazon blaster fire. Dr. Krell stood at the center of the room, his eyes wild with fanaticism. "You're too late," he screamed over the din of battle. "The weapon is already powering up." Harper ducked behind a console, his mind racing. He caught Lyra's eye and nodded towards the main control panel. She understood immediately, sliding along the floor towards it as Harper and his team provided covering fire. The air crackled with energy as blaster bolts flew back and forth. Harper moved with fluid grace, years of special forces training evident in every motion. He rolled from cover to cover, his shots finding their marks with deadly precision. Slowly but surely, the tide of battle turned. Kazon defenders fell one by one until only Dr. Krell remained standing. "It's over, Doctor," Harper said, his weapon trained on the Kazon scientist. "Shut it down." Harper's reflexes were faster. A single shot rang out and Krell collapsed, clutching his shoulder. Lyra was already at the main control panel, her fingers flying over the alien interface. "I'm shutting down the weapon," she called out, "but something's wrong." "He's activated a self-destruct sequence," Lyra said, her voice tight with fear. "It's linked to the planet's core. If it goes off—" Harper didn't need her to finish the thought. The destruction would be catastrophic, potentially rendering the entire planet uninhabitable. Lyra's eyes scanned the readouts, her brow furrowed in concentration. "Yes, but someone will have to stay behind to manually override the system. There's no way to do it remotely." A heavy silence fell over the room. Harper looked at his team, saw the mix of fear and determination in their eyes. He opened his mouth to volunteer, but Lyra spoke first. "I'll do it," she said quietly. "This is my people's madness. I must be the one to end it." Harper met her gaze, saw the unwavering tenacity there. He nodded solemnly. "We'll get you as much time as we can." She smiled sadly. "My people have caused so much pain. This is my chance to make things right." They raced through the facility, the countdown to destruction ticking away in their minds. As they reached the evacuation shuttles, Harper cast one last look back towards the control center. The ground shook as they lifted off, a localized explosion tearing through the weapon facility. Harper closed his eyes, silently honoring Lyra's sacrifice. In orbit, the battle raged on. Admiral Grey stood on the bridge of the UES Vengeance, watching as the combined human-Vorax fleet pressed its advantage. The Kazon ships, their formations in disarray, struggled to mount an effective defense. "Sir," his tactical officer called out, "the planet's surface just registered a massive explosion, but it was contained. The weapon signature we detected, it's gone." Grey allowed himself a small smile. "Harper did it," he murmured. Then, raising his voice, he ordered, "All ships, push forward. This is our chance to end this once and for all." The human Vorax fleet surged ahead, their weapons blazing. Vorax shields glowed brilliantly as they absorbed Kazon fire, while human ships darted through the gaps, striking with surgical precision. Aboard the Kazon flagship, Councillor Dren watched in dismay as his fleet crumbled. General Mock lay unconscious nearby, the result of their earlier power struggle. "Enough," Dren whispered, his shoulders sagging. He turned to his communications officer. "Open a channel to the human admiral." Admiral Grey's face appeared on the screen, his expression stern but not unkind. "This is Councillor Dren of the Kazon Empire," Dren said, his voice heavy with the weight of defeat. I offer our unconditional surrender." Grey's eyes widened slightly, but he quickly regained his composure. "Your surrender is accepted, Councillor. I'm ordering an immediate ceasefire. Prepare to receive a delegation to discuss terms." As the sounds of battle faded, Grey allowed himself a moment of reflection. The war that had consumed so much of his life was finally over. He thought of Emily, of the countless others who had suffered. There would be time for justice, for healing. But for now there was work to be done. "Helm," he ordered, his voice firm. "Set a course for the Kazon capital. It's time to build a lasting peace." The UES Vengeance moved gracefully through space, leading a procession of human and Vorax ships. As they approached the Kazon homeworld, Grey steeled himself for the challenges ahead. The war was over, but the real work of forging a new future for the galaxy was just beginning. You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.